Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do at officehours.global. Our first hour is general discussion, and second hour is usually something that we want to spend, just a little bit more time on. Today, we're going to talk about something. My notes are off. StreamDecks. We're going to talk about StreamDecks today. So people will talk about how they're using them. My note is usually sitting next to me, and I've added this new thing into the notes and suddenly it was gone. So yeah, we're talking about StreamDecks and how we all use them and answering your questions about those in the second hour. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Mitch, what do we have?
Thank you, Alex, and good morning. First question coming in from Andy Carluccio in San Francisco, California. Anyone looking forward to the next Zoom Rooms update based on yesterday's release notes?
Good guy.
Yeah, it looks like that they're adding something that a few of us have been asking for. For those of you that haven't seen it before, the controller looks like this. So this is the web controller. So previously, if you had some people in a meeting, I just set up a quick sample meeting, but you could see that I just have two people in this meeting. So Zoom text the second one. And previously, if you said pin video, you would only get live on NDI 3. And so the release hasn't happened yet. It's happening on Sunday, I believe. You'll start to see more, depending on how many people you have. You get up to 6 outputs at 1080, 12 at 720, and who knows at 360. I don't even know if that's unlimited or what, but we're starting to see some of the things from the liminal acquisition fold in. So that's higher count. And these are isolated audio if you choose that setting in Zoom Room. So this is pretty cool. I mean, vMix in the cloud. I actually like Wirecast as well with the touch panel, because then I could just touch these and they go hot, and I could build my super sources and just touch them on a big 4K touchscreen. So I have a 24-inch Wacom that makes doing shows like this pretty cool. And then we'll see what we can do with the StreamDeck. But yeah, I'm super excited for it.
You're good, John.
But Andy, is this your big release or is that upcoming yet? So speak from the clouds. I want to know.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have more outputs. I guess one of the challenges with the Zoom Rooms is that you have to dive into the controller to do those NDI pins. So I'm wondering if something else is coming around the corner that makes those makes that process a little smoother.
I have a feeling this is the beginning. So this is how things get done, and but I think that we're starting to see some of the exciting stuff that we had hoped would happen with the purchase of Liminal, and so let's see how it goes. It should be a good summer. Next question.
Chris Widener from Lafayette, Indiana. So who wants to test the increased Zoom Room NDI output quantity? Zoom Room's NDI supports up to 6 outputs at 1080 or up to 12 outputs at 720 when it's released Sunday. Who has Andy's address for the gift basket?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if it really is open on Sunday, I'm open to like doing some kind of little lab in after hours and see if we can't grab onto a bunch of outputs here. We've got a bunch of Zoom Rooms, so let's figure it out. If it doesn't have to be me, by the way, I'm just happy to make it available. So see if Guy or Jonas or anybody else that wants to possibly do it. It would be great to do a lab on Sunday to figure it out. Next question.
And it's from our panelist, Guy Cochran in Seattle. What production software services are you paying a monthly subscription on, and are they worth it? Adobe, stock footage, Frame.io, etc.
Good, Courtney.
None are worth it. I go out of my way to avoid monthly pays. I have to pay Quicken now because they stopped letting you use the same version of Quicken for more than 3 years. And now you have to renew it. You have to go to a subscription model. I'm using Photoshop 7.1 because it works on any machine. I actually purchased it for $799 back in the 90s. And by God, that's all I really need.
And it doesn't do anything new that you need.
It does everything I need it for. And I don't have to pay that monthly or hourly or yearly VIG.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Tom.
I have the Adobe Photographers Bundle, Photoshop, Lightroom, and all the cloud syncing back and forth. Since I always kept my Photoshop and Lightroom up to date, I'm actually finding this to be less money outlay. So I like it.
Good, John.
Corey, that's funny. I just had a client call me with Photoshop 6 not running anymore, and they couldn't figure out the reason why. Guy, can you log into my QuickBooks and see all these subscription I have? Adobe Creative Cloud, Lucid Link. I don't know. There's got to be 6 or 7 of those subscriptions that I'm paying for production.
Good, Mitchell.
In principle, I hate the subscription model. I just don't like it. I see why companies are doing it more and more, but I've got a hard copy of every single piece of software I've ever bought or purchased outright, and it's sitting in a cabinet there for anybody that wants to peruse it to make sure I'm not pirating anything. But I do have the Adobe Creative Cloud. It actually costs less than if I were to pay for an upgrade to just one of them. An upgrade to After Effects used to cost, I think, around $200-300. The Creative Cloud, I think it's just under $500 a year. So I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable, but it's working.
Go ahead, Chris.
This discussion reminds me that I need to upgrade, or I need to resubscribe for all of our copies of Creative Cloud. I'm not a fan, but we're kind of stuck because I'm forced to work with agencies that want to see, that are going to give me Photoshop files, they're going to give me After Effects templates. Mm-hmm. I'm not happy.
Go ahead, Bill.
Regardless of if you're doing this, I would highly suggest you set up a process where if you decide that if something, God forbid, happens to you, you can unwind this for your heirs. And the reason I say that is I was on a board of directors with a fine fellow who passed away. It was a sad thing, but I still get emails from him to this day because he had set up some auto pinging thing. And I think he's been gone for about 8 years now. And theoretically, if somebody else doesn't know that you have all these subscriptions coming out of your or their accounts and something happens to them, you don't know, and it's just going to keep pinging monthly forever.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I wasn't thinking even deeper. I also have Microsoft and the Office suite. And then while I haven't signed up for the recurring payment plan, 1Password would like to sign me up.
Yeah, I have had LastPass. I don't think I paid for it for a long time, but it's still my account. I don't know exactly how that works. They keep on telling me I should upgrade. I have Photoshop. I turn the other ones on if I need them for a month, but I don't really use any of the other Adobe products because of the subscription. I have Frame.io, Dropbox for a variety of different things. Some Google workspaces, a couple of them that I'm in, and Cinema 4D. I pay the monthly thing for that because I have it for ZBrush and all that other stuff. So I think those are the big ones. I can't think of a lot of other ones that I'm paying subscription for. I mean, a little one, Polycam on my phone, which I use enough that it's worth it. But it's $8 a month or whatever, and I use it like 3 or 4 times a month that I need it. I use it for lots of things just to play. So I think those are the ones. And I think that I'm pretty careful about it. I check my subscriptions on my Apple accounts. I will say that subscriptions are the biggest reason that I'm against breaking up the Apple App Store, is because I manage my subscriptions, and I would prefer Apple to force everybody into the subscription. I mean, into buying things through the app stores, because I can see them all and I can turn them all on and off really easily, and there's no work to it at all. And if they break up that, then I'll be stuck with having to keep track of it, like what's paying. And so as an Apple user, I would prefer Apple to force everybody into that pipeline, so that I, as a user, can not have to deal with it, not have to think about anything other than one place to turn things on and off. Next question.
I'm still trying to cancel my Columbia Records.
Yeah, exactly. If you just stop, they'll just stop sending you email. I found that what we did, just one thing about that, we were in a dorm, and so you can't keep track of anything. So we would just sign up, and we got hundreds and hundreds of CDs from if you were in a dorm in a high school. The best part is that my cousin named himself, I think, Badita Cronin or whatever. And the best thing is you get all this junk mail. They go, yes, you, Badita Cronin, can win a car. Anyway, next question.
Next question from Guy Cochran in Seattle. Again, what is one piece of equipment that has saved a production? Alternatively, Alternatively, what is one price piece that was missing that went the other direction?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Elocution coach. No, actually, it was the Decimator MDHX has saved the collection many times when they plug a type of SDI or HDMI into something that they want to display it on and nothing shows up. That usually solves the problem. That and as I've spoken before, stick PC and a little tiny keyboard mouse combo. That comes to the rescue many times when they need a display on something and don't have something that can feed it.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I'm going to go off the reservation and say a 1-gallon Ziploc bag, and here is why. I can't tell you the number of times that there was some special little dongle or cable or something that without which this piece of mission-critical equipment would not function. And until I got to the point where I started using gallon Ziploc bags to put the piece of equipment, its plug, its extender, whatever had to be mission-critical for that device to function inside that, have a list on the front of the pieces, and I can't take it out of the shop until all those pieces are inside of it. I stopped suddenly overnight getting into the field and finding I've got everything, but I don't have that one thing that makes the whole thing work. So it was just a mental thing for me. That's kind of why I like packetizing mission critical stuff into one unit.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Just say in general, redundant recordings and redundant recorders that are backup. And so, you never know when one's going to go down or somebody doesn't push the button, things like that. That happens.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
My Pix 240 from Sound Devices. Believe it or not, it's a older piece of technology, but either there's something that needs to be played back or something that needs to be recorded. At least you got a 1080 source or a recording capability.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, and the 1-gallon Ziploc bag brought back perfect use for me that saved the day, Bill. I used to have a Fostex PD2 as my main recorder. Didn't have a backup recorder, as Jesse said we should all have. Out on a hot day, when that thing gets hot, it stops recording. So I took a Ziploc bag, I filled it full of ice from the craft service ice chest, and stuck it under the PD2, cooled it down to the point that it would start working again, and I left it there all day.
I think that for me the MDHX or HXMD or whatever the Decimator, we literally would put one in everybody's backpack, so that if it was a big show and there's a lot of people, there'd be a lot of them sitting around because we would fix all kinds of little things with them. And what is the one piece that was missing that went the other direction? I don't quite understand that side of it. Guy, were you thinking of one piece that did go wrong, or?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you didn't have that piece, that the production, it was a showstopper essentially. Like,
oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for us, the number one thing that the MDHX, and then the things that really made things work are a lot of Sound Devices stuff, Pix 240s, USB pre's. Those are things that were deep in our systems. Next question.
Molly Eisen in Atlanta has a question. Does anyone have a template for an event production schedule, perhaps somewhere in Discord, under a special tab? Hoping this is the right place to ask this. Happy Friday.
I looked for it this morning. I couldn't find one that I could clean up quickly to show you what I have to delete everything that's in it. And I didn't have something that I could replace so that it would make sense. I was trying to do that before the show. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, there's so many different flavors and approaches to making a production schedule. But just to say, sometimes you'll see the production schedule that has, it's specific to the producers or specific to the tech crew. And some of them have, the different crews or people and then their responsibilities as the flow, proceeds. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a style choice, but I use Google Docs a lot for that. That way, if we need to flip the style or create secondary schedules based on what the panelists want, we can do that. But just to say, there's so many different approaches, and what somebody needs to see on a schedule might be different than another person.
I don't know if I've ever seen two that look the same. like they're all different. I mean, ours look the same, but every time I get one from somebody else, it's slightly different than the next one, and so. I think that this is Molly. If someone can put this in the second hour, just to put a pin in it for me to look at in the second hour suggestions, I think it's worth the second hour just to talk about how we build production schedules. I think that's a a great Friday topic soon. So let's go ahead and get that into the second hour suggestion, somebody, and vote it up, and I'll take a look at it. But we should get that in soon. It's a great one to talk about. I feel like I reinvent these all the time. Like, oh, now I want this or that. So it's good discussion. Next question.
The Seventh Scroll in Brooklyn, New York. Morning, guys. Thinking of using two Heil PR 40s for a talk with both speakers about 2 feet away from each other. Would these mics work best for this scenario? Any recommendations? Thanks a million.
Good, Bill.
Well, when I first read this, I thought you meant that the Heil PR 40s were going to be 2 feet away from the speakers, and that would not work well at all. Those mics need close address to sound good. But I read it a second time, and I thought you're saying that the two speakers are 2 feet away from each other, and they have Heil PR 40s close to them. That would work just fine. Those mics being dynamics that don't have a lot of gain behind them, you do not want them at distance from the speaker. I mean, they could work if you have a really quiet area, but not the best use for them.
Yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, you really need to know what you're doing. You need to be able to stay right on that microphone when you're talking to it. I would substitute a Shure MV7. I think it would work better for you.
I'm a big fan of the Heils for that, exactly what you're talking about. I think that they would work quite well. You just want to make sure that the people they're next to each other, but you want to try to orient them. So if you have a table here, you want to orient them so that the mics are kind of going away from each other, that they're not like next to each other going straight. They'll have a tendency to pick up more. The one thing about the Heil PR 40 is that it has a lot of off-axis rejection. So it will, the more you get to one angle off of it, the more you're it's gonna drop off, which is to your advantage here. If you are doing this live, think about using something that'll have a Dugan auto mix or some version of an auto mix that'll push the other one down. If you're doing it for a podcast and a record, you can do that on your own. So those things are relatively effective. Next question.
John Nichols from Concord, California. A friend is interested in streaming a concert where the musicians are all virtual in different locations. What options are available? A short delay for syncing audio tracks is okay. Prefer something close to live if possible.
Well, we have a second hour with farplay.io, and I think that's probably the solution that I've seen that's the closest to people being able to do that. It really depends on distance. When you're dealing with this, you're dealing with physics of light. How long does it take to get from one part of the country? So, for instance, the nominal delay between here and Los Angeles, from Marin County, Northern California, and Los Angeles, is about 17 milliseconds, all told. And so but if you do the same thing to New York, and you're talking, over 100 milliseconds. And so it really depends on who you're contacting with. What we've seen so far with things like FarPlay and other types of collaborative ones is that they usually have a hard time going over about 300 or 400 miles. And typically they want to be less than 200 miles away because it's just hard to get that. Now, it depends on what you're playing as well. So things that have to be right on can be a little further away. Now, other ways that we've done this is that we have someone play and then they hand it off to somebody else. Like we've had ones where we had choirs, and the choirs would sing. We had this was in Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver. And it was all over Zoom, or not Zoom, but Google Hangouts. This is 2012, 2013. We had them all sing, but then they would hit a note, and they'd hold the note. And then the other side would hold that, come in on that note, and then come up and take over. And that way we didn't have to, that way our latency could be high and it wouldn't matter. Another way that has been done by some folks in our group is to cascade it. So you start with drums, and then you go to the next person in Zoom and the next person in Zoom, and each one of them's adding what they're doing. So it ends up being in sync because you're only hearing the last person coming out. And so if you cascade that, you can build something relatively complex to make that work. But if they're really jamming on each other, back and forth, the only thing I've seen that I was impressed with, that I looked at it like that, was FarPlay. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, and the question also includes an option of being close to live. So another way would be to get all those folks, send them out a click track, and then basically have them pre-record most of the backing tracks, the same day or the day before with the same instruments in the same location, and then just have the vocalists do their thing live and send that out from the same location that the backing tracks are sent by, and then they just sort of jam along with their, music. That might work.
We've also done things where we have a global click track, which is that it uses GPS clocking to basically give you exactly a click track that everyone's playing with. The problem you have with that is that there is variance in something like Zoom. That is, so it's not just the delay between you; it's the actual how the video is hitting, and so it can, depending on people's distance from the reflector, it can be slightly off as it goes there, but it's pretty close depending on the kind of content that you're doing. Next question.
And I've got a question. This one is, it's summer, time for portable speakers to take your music outside. What do you think of the new Sony XG-500 Bluetooth speakers? I have a link there. Feel free to make alternative suggestions.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
These Bluetooth devices, there is some good-sounding Bluetooth and some bad-sounding Bluetooth, and I haven't purchased these, but they're on my radar screen. And my concern is, what is the latest technology for getting a high-quality Bluetooth from your iPhone, for example? I think it's aptX compression scheme or whatever, but that's kind of what I'm looking at, and very interested to hear what everybody else has to say, because I'm the guy that has to bring the music whenever we have a party. Oh, Mitch, bring the music.
Go ahead, Courtney.
I'm not sure about the Sony XG-500s. I haven't looked at them. But here in L.A., if you want to bring your music outside, you just roll down the windows of your car, and you tend to be entertaining the entire neighborhood.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm going to recommend the weirdest thing in the world, which is head to Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace like that. And I'll tell you why. They have a cottage industry now of ruggedized music players for job sites. And all the big companies have put a lot of money into this. So you'll find that Milwaukee and DeWalt and all of these have music systems that folks who do remote construction can take with them. They last forever. They sound decent. They're not, fabulous. And if that's what you're looking for, different thing. But surprisingly, there are a lot of options.
I would agree that the DeWalt ones look pretty beefy. I don't have one, but they do look pretty beefy. Go ahead, Chris.
They're yellow for one thing.
Yellow. It's hard to miss.
So I'm going to remind everybody that our world used VHS for 30 years and didn't complain a whole lot. Last weekend, I was working in my garage, working on a project. I come inside, my wife or sister, daughter, they're playing cards. You know those little tiny Amazon pucks? I won't say her name, Alexa. They're playing Amazon music, full blast out of the puck. And they're perfectly happy with it. They're just sitting there playing cards. And I have a nice little, I can't remember what kind it is. It's pretty good sounding. It's about $200. I was like, here, you can use this. Whatever. Like, you got to remember, we can worry and complain about all this stuff. I'm going to tell you flat out, most people, they don't care. Just give them a Bluetooth speaker. They'll be pleased as punch.
The thing that the Sony looks great. It looks pretty. I think the problem that I get into is I usually like to buy something well under $100 because when it gets sticky, things spilled on it, whatever, I just go, oh, well. My outdoor speakers usually last they're usually some Chinese knockoff of something or some Chinese whatever in it. And they, the one I just ordered for the summer, this is the summer one that I ordered, was a W King 60 watt RMS. I'll have it sometime next week, I think. And it's about $100. And it does have one thing that I like is TWS, True Wide Stereo, I think, or True World Stereo or something. You can connect two of them together and make it a big wide stereo if you want to. So I don't know if I'll use it, but I won't buy anything without it. After I read about what it was, I was like, well, I don't want to buy anything that can't do that. So that's the only thing I pay attention to, but it's a Bluetooth otherwise. Go ahead, Chris.
So the big problem is, so at the time of this recording, it's Friday, June 24th. Just yesterday, my daughter calls me and she goes, hey, because I'm not at the house all week. She calls me, she goes, hey, do you know where the speaker is? And I'm like, yeah. It's hanging from the sun shield out in the backyard. She looks out. She goes, oh, there it is. It's been outside all week since the weekend. Right. So, yeah, you don't want to spend a whole lot on it.
Anyway, because it's just that I don't want to, I think my thing with speakers is I don't want to worry about it. Like I'm going to Stinson Beach or I'm going to somewhere, I want to throw it out on the sand and know that if this is the last, if I get a couple of good plays, and it works. These little speakers for us work all summer. because the kids, are in the pool, and we have a pool mix that they listen to, and they on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. And a lot of times I actually take my Apple speaker out, because then they can just call things out to it. Anyway, but I think that a cheaper speaker is what I would recommend, just so that you don't feel bad about destroying it. Which is, again, as someone who grew up on a farm, there's so many. We went through I think we went through one radio every couple of weeks. Someone ran it over with a tractor, fell off the tractor, cows stepped on it, cows pooped on it. All those things. All right, next question.
Next question from TJ Asher in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K was announced. Who's excited? Who can fill us in on the details?
Yeah, so the G2 was released. What it looks like they did is they kind of cut the distance between the G1 and the Pro. So if you have a Pro, you're not going to feel like, oh, I wish I had. Maybe you will, but I didn't. As a Pro owner, I didn't feel like I was wanting the G2. The G2 has, I think, the ND filters that the Pro had. It also, I think it has the second XLR input, I believe. Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't. Is it still one? Guy will know probably more than that.
It doesn't have the ND filters. It does have a new battery though, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure on the XLR. It might have doubled on that, but yeah, $500.
So they added a little bit more. They kind of got some of the stuff that you would need. I thought it was a nice upgrade for people. They can pay the same amount of price that they were paying before, but they're getting a little bit more out of it. So I think the G2 is a good move. What's nice about it is it doesn't. Again, as a G Pro owner, you don't feel like, I didn't look at it and go, oh, I wish I had that, or I shouldn't have bought this. And so I think it was pretty good. Next question.
Tom Ferguson in Phoenix, Arizona, and a panelist. And the question is, the Smithsonian is shifting to a future of digital museum experiences through photogrammetry and AR. I can't wait. Thoughts?
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, if you watch the video for this, Alex, they're putting the dinosaur in your backyard. And I think that's just crazy.
Yeah. They have been doing this for a long time. So Smithsonian has been digitizing using photogrammetry, I think, for 4 or 5 years. And if you go to their library, the great thing is, since we as American taxpayers paid for it, it's all free. So you can go up there and if you go to Smithsonian, if you do Smithsonian 3D, I think you'll probably end up with this huge list of stuff. And a lot of them are OBJs. They've been slowly converting a lot of them to USDZ. Actually, some of it was shown, I think, on the Apple site for a little while. But they have OBJs with texture maps, and you can absolutely bring them in. I've done tests where I've taken the lunar capsule that they have digitized and brought it into Reality Converter as an OBJ, realigned the textures and dropped it into USDZ, then brought it into motion and could animate it. And so those are all, maybe we'll do a second hour on that too, because it's kind of fun to go grab other objects and put them into animations. But I think that, they've been doing it for a long time, and they're really good at it, and they have a really good setup there to do it. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I had trouble understanding why they would do it as augmented reality and not just virtual reality, but maybe that works for both.
It's on the extra work. I mean, this is a PR release that's great that Petapixel's picked up on or whatever. But the reality is that the reality of the virtual reality and the AR is all they're doing is photogrammetry into high resolution models that then they can say it's AR. So they're staying up with the press.
And use the buzzwords of the day, I guess.
It's how you stay funded.
Yeah, because in other words, for augmented reality, you have to have a big space you can walk around in, the size of a museum, and most people don't have that in their living room.
Well, you can also, with all of those things, you can on an Apple device, you can just pinch it and it just gets small. So now you can just set it in your. I will say that we built years ago, probably 2016, 2017. We had a motion capture system, a 30 by 30 foot motion capture system, and we used the Google LiDAR, phones and so on and so forth with the cardboard and everything else. And then we also used the gear with Unity, and we built a museum, a virtual museum. And we had inside or outside in trackers, but real motion capture. And we put them on just to see what the future would look like. Amazing. You could do, just to put in people's heads, you could have a space and now that we have all this space and office buildings emptied and everything else, you can build VR things that you can walk around in. You feel like you're in a place. You're walking around looking at items of antiquity, and you could get information about them and everything else in your own little world. It's pretty awesome. Like it was the idea of being able to do a virtual, Egyptian thing or whatever. In our case, it was Zimbabwean art. Like we took pieces that were this big and made them like 8 feet.
So you can see what the Mona Lisa would look like above your toilet in the bathroom.
You can do that now. So anyway, go ahead, Bill.
I think there's a great future for this, and I hope as many museums as possible do this for their collections. I am a little leery, and only because of an experience I had years ago. I was doing a talk in Chicago, so I decided I was going to go to the Art Institute, and there were 2 paintings in the Art Institute. They're very famous, the big Sorrow that they have there, and the Nighthawks painting, and I wanted to see them both in person, but I got lost, and I turned the corner, and I got literally physically stopped. They have a little Renoir there of 2 sisters, and I don't know what it was. I just really don't, whether it was the lighting they used or the mood I was in or whatever. But that painting stopped me like a hand on my chest, and I could not believe it. And I ordered a print of it after. Not the same thing at all. Being there, seeing the actual work did have a physical effect on me. Now, maybe this will get so precise and so good, and the colors will be so accurate, and the reproduction will be so great, and they will figure out a way to let you electronically wander. All these things I believe are possible. I just know that was one of the signature moments of my life, and I hope that they can get to the point where they can recreate what art can do for you in the real world. I
think the paintings will be the hardest thing to do in AR. Like, it's just that there's a detail to them, and there's something there. I think paintings are hard, but I think that historical artifacts like what the Smithsonian has, there's a lot of opportunity to play with it. And if you go in, especially if you're on the Apple platform and you go into the Smithsonian and you start pulling these into AR experiences that are relatively easy because you don't need any extra software to do it. But otherwise, get Unreal, get Unity. You can drag and drop some of the stuff in. It's pretty impressive, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Next question.
Jonas Dottel from Stuttgart, Germany. What is your advice to find clients and leads for your production services?
Bill?
This is all a matter of communications, I think, and it is very hard for those of us who love kind of I'm a guy who's worked in a booth by myself a long time, and I tend to be a little bit introverted in most circumstances. But when I got into business for myself, I realized that wasn't working for me, and I had to get out, because really work comes from human interaction. It doesn't come from sending out things most of the time. It comes from meeting somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and if you can communicate successfully to the first person what you do and how you do it, and make a little connection with them, they will pass you on to somebody else and get you work. So these ideas that speakers use, like your elevator pitch and things like that, and then just getting out into the community as much as you can to talk to as many people as you can and let them see some of your passion for doing your work. That is literally how almost every piece of work I've gotten through the course of my career has come to me, from some small interaction that I didn't realize at the time was going to lead to somebody else, hearing about me. They're going to ask me about what I do. They're going to eventually call, or that person in the middle will make the connection, and then I'm in front of them, and I have some stature because somebody else has said he's good at what he's doing. So,
good guy.
Yeah, Bill got it. That's just it. I mean, be excellent at what you do, and other people will notice. And while you're starting up, doing some volunteer work where you can, really get around other people that you normally wouldn't have, and they can see the quality of what you're doing. Because I know, Jonas, you're doing stuff that nobody sees behind the scenes, but it's really tough for people to get, those AWS instances. So you have a lot of things that people don't realize that it'll be really hard. So basically, you're solving their problem. You're the shortcut. You don't want them to have to go sit and wait a month to get G4DN instances. So let them know some of these things that are hard to do. So I like to hang out in some of these user group areas as well, and just solve people's problems, respond and help them out, and then be like, hey, I got a way to do that. If they're having a real challenge, if it's going to take them 20 hours, something you can do in one. I know you have all those templates and shortcuts, so you can do it. You just got to get out in front of people. I mean, even us helping Tony Mobley, believe it or not, that's a calling card. I mean, you're showing people what you can do, and people are going to take notice.
Yeah, I've told the story before, so I'll keep it really short. But I got my job at Lucasfilm because I was answering people's questions on AOL. Like, that's how I got to work on Star Wars, was answering people's questions on AOL chat. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, I think all of the previous comments were very relevant. The other thing is join office hours, because what better place to demonstrate your knowledge of what you're dealing with than right here in front of your fellows and other people that are interested. I specialize in doing After Effects graphics, motion graphics, and I've gotten referrals just by being here. In fact, I'll mention my website if Alec will let me do that.
No, don't do that. That's
Okay.
Too much. So too much on the nose. Serving the market is the thing that I've done the most for the last 30 years. I just look for the market that I want to be in, and then I help it. And I do talks, and I write articles, and I do little videos and everything else. And it's not an ad campaign is how you get something fast. It's just expensive. But long campaigns of serving the market that you're in tends to, I think Guy does it really well as well. And a lot of people here in the panel, you have to, it's the long play, of doing it. And it's not something that you do and then you get work. It's not like you push something in and you get it out. You're slowly building, your relationships with everybody that's watching a show or reading your articles or doing those other things. And it's the easiest way to do it. But you got to put a little in all the time. This is, you'll hear me always talk about, it's farming, not hunting. So hunting is out there, you go out and get a deer. Farming is, there's a lot of plowing, there's a lot of seeding, there's a lot of watering. And, hunting is how we all start, but farming is what creates civilization. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it is a lot of work and it takes time. And I think, Jonas, an important facet of this to keep in mind is you want to, you don't want to preach to the choir. I always find it kind of charming when a camera operator goes to a camera show and tries to pass out their business cards because they're a camera operator. Every person there is looking for work. Don't waste your time. You're going to need to reach out to the people that need your services, not the other, not your peers. So, office hours might work, but we're all kind of doing the same thing here. I will say I've received work from office hours. A lot of other people have received work because of this community.
And specifically because you're on the panel. Like to be clear, it's, if people are looking, if you have a lot of knowledge and you can share it, people on it, like for me, I can tell you that, I've hired lots of people, in office hours, but generally the one common thread of them, they've all been on the panel for some period of time because then I know them, and so the thing is that you can join office hours, but the panel is the big game, and it's how you get in front of a lot of people. And every time I'm in meetings that, are pretty influential people in the industry, and they're like, oh, by the way, I watch office hours. I really like what you're doing there. It's not that I got the work because of that, but boy, does it smooth out the conversation. Like when they have notoriety, I'm always kind of amazed that the panel isn't. It's like the easiest, cheapest way to market yourself to. If you're knowledgeable, it's a great way to ruin your career if you're not knowledgeable. Really so yeah. But if you know something more than a lot of other people and you're out and you're willing to share it, it's the cheapest, easiest way to make sure that everybody knows you, and yeah.
And also, Jonas, keep in mind that you're playing a long game. I know what you and Tucker are doing. I think it's awesome, but you're playing a long game. You're going to develop these relationships that you will have for decades, like literally decades. My best clients, I've worked with them for 25 years. So keep that in mind. And, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens because, you give everything and you give it for a long time.
But the being on a show like this, whether it's this show or some other show that you do, is like, we always joke, I gave Leo MacBreak, right? I just said, here, you take it over. I didn't sell it to him. I didn't charge for it. I didn't want a percentage. I just said, you can do it, because I knew it'd be more successly with Leo. And someone said, well, he makes a lot of money off of MacBreak. And I'm like, I make more money on MacBreak than Leo does every single year. so like, because I get so much referrals. Like I get, like he's selling things for X amount of dollars per episode. I'm, doing $250,000 projects. It doesn't take me very many times to turn an edge because some executive somewhere says, well, we don't know how to do this, but I watch this MacBreak thing or I watch office hours and these guys seem to know what they're doing. So we'll hire them. So it's a big, I would highly recommend, serving your market with video and content is really the secret sauce. Go ahead, John.
Jonas, the production business is a very tough business. If I were you, I would go into oil refining. That's what you should do.
I hear it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Go ahead, Courtney.
Cryptocurrency, yes. No, I think, one good way, and it's helped me every time it's happened, is find somebody to write an article about you and or your company in a trade journal. And that helps tremendously. It gives you exposure. It's written by somebody else, so it's not like self-promotion. It's not a paid advertisement. And you'd be surprised at the number of clients that can bring in.
Yeah, and I've written a lot of those articles for trade magazines, and I think that the other thing that benefits you if you write them, because a lot of these trade magazines, especially now, they'll take almost anybody that is technically capable to write for them, especially if you don't charge very much. And I don't really. I mean, sometimes they send me a check. I don't really.
You don't need to be capable.
Yeah,
they gave up that requirement a long time ago.
A while ago, yeah. So if you're good at it, though, like I found that if I was just, I think that there's always, I don't know who the saying is, 90% of it is just showing up. Magazine articles, just because I could make deadlines, magazines would have me write every month. If you can do this every month, we're in, but I will go back to whether it's this show or a podcast or articles, every major break that I've ever had was connected to generating content for the industry that I was working in or the place that I wanted to go. Every single one. So it's just something to kind of consider. Next question.
Eduardo Augustine from Panama. How do you land more clients for your live streaming production services?
And we're back. Yeah, same thing. Serve your industry with it. Also, the other thing I will say is do things. This gets back into the volunteering. Doing things and doing great things. So the other place that we've gotten to evolve what we do is that we do really great things that we're not making any money at, and we show people that how we did it, or we show the behind the scenes. And usually, if I'm doing that for a nonprofit, I'll say, "Hey, we'll do it for a reduced rate, or we'll do it for free." But I need to be able to use all the content to show people how we did it, to how we put it together, and that helps, really build, a lot of connections. I bought a camera a long time ago, a 1080p camera, 444, this Sony f950. I spent $82,000 on that camera. It was the biggest purchase I'd ever made back in 2005. And I paid it off. I did a show called Mac Break with it, Mac Break Video, all on green screen. And I showed people how we did it, and I paid it off in a year. Like I paid the camera off, just in the rental fees, not in the total cost of I did $500,000 of production. Because suddenly everyone knew that I had a 444 camera. And more importantly, they knew why that meant something. Like they all had little cameras. Me educating them on why the 444 made a difference. When you watch the Road to 1080p, I'm not selling you anything. I'm not telling you. You can now come to my, I don't end the video with, this is the mistake everyone makes, is they try to close the sale in the video.
Call to action.
The call to action is dumb. Like you just... it's so short thought, short thinking. You just give them the information. Just no sale, no. This is just the info that you have, and So I just told people how we did it, and literally within 2 weeks, that camera was just working. Because it turned out it's the only 444 camera in Northern California at the time. so it was, and so I was working for Revision 3, Adobe. Salesforce, all these other things. And so anyway, it's just, the mistake people make when they do all the content that I just talked about is they try to do a call to action. Don't do that. Like just serve. That's all you need to do. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's a matter of perspective too. There was a woman in my town that had always wanted to have a hat shop, and a storefront came open, and she spent a lot of money and filled it up with hats, and that went out of business within 90 days because nobody wanted to buy hats. It's not a matter of drawing customers into what you do. It's putting yourself in front of what the customer needs to have done. You've got to go where the customer is. They will steadfastly refuse to think like you want them to. They will insist on thinking like they want to. You've got to work with them.
When I'm in a conversation, I'm gonna use this one more time, then we're gonna move on to the next question. Action equals possibility is greater than circumstance. That is the equation that makes all the world run. And when you're in a conversation with a client, you figure out what their possibility is and what their circumstances are. Like, that's what you're listening for when you're talking about how do you do this and what's going on and what's in the way and how does this work and what do you want to get out? What do you want to get out of this? And all these questions, you're carefully listening for these two variables. And then what you have to do, you listen to their variables. You don't tell them what the variables are. You listen to their variables, because what people get stuck with is that exactly what Kenneth was talking about, is that they have their own opinion of what the variables are, what the possibility and circumstance is. And if you're relating to your variable rather than their variable, these variables aren't just cash and time. These are variables of, I think that'll be hard, or this will be politically complicated in the company, or people will think this, or people will think that. That's all the stuff you have to suss out when you talk to someone, is what are they trying to, what gets them excited about what they're doing? Like, what are they trying to get done and what's stopping them? And you push the what's stopping down and you push what they're trying to get up. And you'll know when it's working when this happens. And you push it, you just push these two down and you'll click. And suddenly action will start to occur and they'll start to do things. And the delta between the possibility and the circumstance will define the velocity of the action. Anyway, next question.
The Seventh Scroll in Brooklyn, New York wants to know, morning, guys. We want to weave an iPhone 13 Pro into our mix for outdoors and indoors videos and photos. On the list is the Smallrig cage with handles, but does it work with Moment lenses, filters, and also would you recommend the Moment app or Filmic Pro?
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, here it is. There's the Smallrig. Yes, it uses the Moment lenses, at least the bayonet mount, which is the more recent Moment lenses. And as for which app, whatever works for you. What does it have? What features are you looking for?
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, very much what he said. The question is, why are you thinking about lenses before you think about what you actually need to do? And I will just say, this has been my experience. I use Filmic Pro about half the time, and I use the Apple standard. It's in the phone already. Video capture thing about half the time. Both of them have their advantages and their disadvantages. So I very seldom put an external lens on something, because I very seldom are in a circumstance where that makes the difference between the success or failure of a shot. You already have, ultra wide, normal, and a telephoto setting in the camera to begin with. So adding lenses to get those things doesn't make any sense to me. And each of these things, Apple has a workflow that they've built into their thing, where if I'm just using the phone naturally, it's almost flawless all the way through delivery, because they've figured out HDR and all those things, and their software understands it, and it's just easy. So adding these things sometimes make the workflow more difficult, and is that what you want? So, my advice is always start with the stock stuff, learn it really well. Then if you need something else like an external Moment lens, because you have a reason for that Moment lens, then get it.
And the answer to this, from my perspective, is yes, it uses Moment. Yes, they're great, and I use Filmic Pro. So to make that work. Next question.
John Nichols, Concord, California. Visiting New York next week for a multicam hybrid meeting experience project I'm leading. It will be my first time visiting B&H. Any pro tips, must-see and do's, any contacts I should reach out to?
Relatively quick, Tom.
While I have not been to B&H, a friend of mine gave me a pro tip you can literally take to the bank. Leave your credit card with a trusted friend that will not give it back.
There you go, Mitchell.
Sneakers with arch support.
Be careful of all the candy. It'll make your tongue swell. What makes my tongue swell? There's so much of it all over the place, and you keep. Maybe they don't do that anymore, but that's my big tip. The one thing I would say is talk to the folks that are there. They know what they're doing. Like, if you have the best thing about B&H is you can walk in, and when you're talking to the sound person, they know everything about that hardware. And when you're talking to the camera person, they know everything about that camera. They are talking to the manufacturers. They get briefed all the time. They know everything. It is the best learning experience. I used to go to B&H every time I went to New York just to sit there and chit chat with a lot of the folks, and I'd be learning. Oh, what about this? And what is this? And how does this work? Like, feel free to ask them questions and so on and so forth. And but every person that's sitting there behind one of these booths is a nerd about whatever they're sitting behind. They don't move them around. Like, the camera guy is not working in audio, and the audio guy is not working in camera. That guy knows that thing, or that woman knows that thing. And so, so it's really worth just asking questions. Next question.
Jonas Dowdle from Stuttgart, Germany. It seems like a lot of people here hate subscriptions. What billing model, especially for a service like restreaming, would you prefer? Metered billing, one-time payment that gets you X amount of usage, or something else?
Good, Courtney.
Metered billing. I'm a fan of metered billing. I think it's fair. You know, if I don't use that service that month, I don't want to pay for that service that month. And if I use it extensively, I think I should pay extensively for it. This is how my cell phone bills are done. I've got a great cell phone from Spectrum that bills me $14 a month, and that's for 1 gigabyte of data and full text and talk nationwide. So if I only use less than 1 gigabyte of data, it's only $14. If I go over that, then it's another $14. It's only $28. So it's I like the fact that they meter it, even if they meter it in chunks. You know, once you cross a level that moves you to the next tier. But that's my favorite.
You go ahead, Bill, real quick.
I'm not against subscriptions per se. I just think subscription needs to be for something where the content that you're subscribing to is constantly changing and they're constantly updating their library. There are a lot of subscription services like the pay-for-view movies that we all get, or not the subscription services, where I want to look there every month and I want to see new stuff and I'm excited about that and I'll pay every month for the thing. What I dislike is a subscription service where I paid in February. In March, April, and May, they've changed nothing. I'm still paying, and worse, perhaps not even using the service I'm subscribing to. Yeah. So I'm literally continuing to give them money for no effort on their part. I think those are usury subscriptions, and I don't like those.
I think for the most part, if I feel like I'm getting a good deal out of the subscription, I'm all for it. If I feel like I'm getting a bad deal out of it, I'm all against it. That's the bottom line, because there's, as Bill just said, there's plenty of things that I'm fine to pay a subscription for, but they're generally small numbers, and I know that I'm getting what a perceived value that's higher than what that subscription is. That's the big key thing, is just the return. Next question.
Daniel Goldstein from Washington, D.C. I'm interested in a Telestrator system app that lets me draw accurately on top of an HDMI signal, but returns only the telestration to be luma keyed in my ATEM Mini.
I'm almost done with the app. That's what this does. See this little problem right now? This is why it's not really see my mouse. It goes into that state, and I have to fix that. But I'm working on it with somebody here, so we will soon, very soon. Now I actually have someone that's got it almost done. As far as being able to see that thing. Next question.
This is from Tlaloc Miguel Lopez Waterman. He's on the road. What is the workflow for turning off subscriptions in the App Store from Apple?
It usually requires me to wander around aimlessly trying to figure out where it is, and then I find it and then I turn them off. It's under, if you go into settings, under your name at the very top, and then you'll see subscriptions, fourth down, and then it will show you all your subscriptions. And if you're not sure you want to keep something, and it's like a year or a month, just cancel it. You can always uncancel it later, but it'll just automatically turn off. So a lot of things I go through and I go, cancel all the way down. And then if I want it back, I turn it back on again. Or if I'm missing it, I turn it back on again. That's because you'll get the rest of the month. Like if you paid for a month, you're going to get a month. So you just turn it off. You turn a lot of them off all the time. And then if you want to turn them back on, you turn it back on. Oh, I got to use it. Okay, now I turn it back on again. It's the ninja way to use it, and you just turn things off all the time. And when you miss them, turn them back on again. And then you're fine. It's definitely not the way that they designed to use it, but it works really well with Apple subscriptions, and it's the only place it works really well. Next question.
Walt Palmer, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using Riverside.fm versus Zoom?
Riverside records locally and then streams it up, as opposed to Zoom. If Zoom did local records, I don't know if there'd be any reason to use Riverside. But I think the disadvantage of Riverside, and Chris can correct me, is it does a weird thing where it clips the aperture so you don't see the whole image. Does it still do that?
Yeah, there's two levels of Riverside, and I wish Leo was here, because Leo loves Riverside, knows it very well. Unless you get into the enterprise version of Riverside, you can't see the whole aperture. So, there could be like this crazy camera in the background that you don't see. And depending on how you're viewing it, you may even see people in square or portrait mode. Now, they will record full aperture. There is a workaround if you're cheap and don't want to pay for enterprise. And that is that they have a button where you can click on it and it will take one frame from the remote person and open it in a browser tab for you. So you can like check it and go, okay, pick up the socks on the floor and we're good to go. And then you can hit record and it gets it local. And
what's crazy about that is when Chris explained that to me earlier, that's why I went, nope. And literally wouldn't use Riverside because of it. You know, like it was like, I was like, because I don't want to have something show up in an area that I can't. I was like,
we've had that happen, haven't we?
Yes, we have. and not that I'm bitter. And so the thing is that
we fixed it.
We did. Why? You fixed it. Anyway, it's so dumb. Like what they did there, and they have such a great product, and this is like one of these things where you're just like, what an unforced error, you know, to do it. I'm sure that they felt like that was some way to upsell people to enterprise, but it just has people not want to use their product and make requests to all kinds of other companies of, hey, you should do local. Like that's what you don't want. What you want people to do is go, oh, this is the app that I use for everything. You don't want them telling every other company, you know, you really should do local records because I don't want it, because Riverside FM is cool, but I don't like the way they do it. But you could do it better. Like that is a horrible place for a company to put itself in, and that's where they put themselves.
My thought is that
we're suggesting it to. I suggest it literally to every person I talk to that does video. like you should do. Local
My thought is that a lot of people don't notice it. Obviously, this crowd would, and it's easy enough to get around if you want to use the service and you want to pay for it. I think there's also a logical reason, maybe, for doing it because they do save bandwidth by trimming out what you don't need to. And if you want to use more bandwidth, you can pay for it.
Yeah, it's cuckoo crazy. Next question.
The Seventh Scroll, Brooklyn, New York. Is there a site app that allows you to test your voice against different mic models like Heil, Shure, etc.? We would like to get feedback from the community before purchasing.
Good, Mitchell.
I would get in your car and head over to B&H because you got to do this in person and you got to do it with a pair of headphones that you're used to using. So put the headphones on, walk up to the audio guy and have him bring out the mics and test them. Because if you're used to hearing yourself back in your headphones, you're going to get an idea what the mic brings to the party.
I actually took a Zoom recorder actually back in the day. I took a Zoom recorder over to a record store. That's how I picked this mic. Is I went through and I said, this is a TLM 103. This is a TLM 102. This is a TLM M. This is a Heil PR 40. This is a whatever. And I would just and then I would say my little Shakespeare thing, and I just did that for every mic, recording them all, and then I went back to my house and listened to them in what I want to hear it in, and made a decision about what I liked, and they were the little place that did it was happy to help me do that. Go ahead, Bill.
Apparently the 103 won out.
It did.
I've been doing voiceover for a long time.
The 102.
And when I started in the business, I would always go to studios because there was no home recording, which means that I used whatever mic the engineer hung in front of me. And I probably used 50 different mics in my first 2 years in a bunch of different studios and a bunch of different environments. I got paid and I was successful at doing the voiceover in every one of those things. And they kept calling me back and forth. And it got me to the point where I started thinking, is it really the mic? Now, I am not arguing that mics don't have differences. They absolutely have character differences, and some mics do work better for some people than other mics. But that said, I still think the hierarchy is the script, whether it's written well, the performance that you're giving, the chain of your recording into the recorder of some kind, and the mic is maybe number 4. And I base that on the fact that all of those voiceovers on all of those different mics, all of them work just fine. I will perform slightly different when I put on my headphones and I'm in front of a different mic because the mic has different characteristics, but they all worked, whatever that's worth.
Next question.
Next question. Sorry, jumped out of the screen.
Oh, Courtney, I jumped past you. Sorry about that. Go ahead, finish, Courtney.
Yeah, I was going to say it's hard to tell your own voice, but if you're looking for a place to compare microphones with a certain person's voice, I'd recommend Booth Junkie. This guy, and forgive me, I don't remember his name, but he has all kinds of videos comparing different types of voiceover mics in the booth, and so he compares them 1-to-1 and lets you determine blind tests and lets you determine which one you think is best. And he also has does a lot of stuff on voiceover recording applications. So it's a good spot to look.
That's Mike Delgaudio, isn't it?
That might be him, yes.
Yeah, I really recommend, though, if you can, to go to a music store that it could be, most of them will have a mic area that you can do this in. Every voice is so different. There's nothing better than going there and listening to how it interacts with your voice.
Or just become friends with Paul Wallace and go to his house.
Yeah, Wallace. All right, that's what you do. Is he should just create anywhere in Austin. You can just go to the house of Wallace. All right, next question.
Chris Widener, Lafayette, Indiana. Opinions on the new equipment for audio capture and streaming from Zoom, and they have a link there for it.
I thought this was pretty interesting. I wanted to make sure we got this before we got to the end of the hour. Zoom is putting out these little interfaces that are relatively inexpensive. They must have just been released because I went to Sweetwater. Like literally when I saw Chris's post here, I went and tried to order it just so that I could test it. And these are little, what they call the AMS audio interfaces. And they have, just the little bits that you need to get into a computer that Zoom is putting out. And I think that this is actually pretty revolutionary. Now, if only Zoom knew a company that knew about recording, it would be great. Like the only thing missing from these, to get back to the local record that we had, is a micro SD card in them so that you could hit record on them, or more importantly, hit record remotely. But they're super close. But as a little audio interface that we might send out with mics, this looks really good. So we haven't tested it yet, but it'll be interesting to see. Next question.
I have a second hour question, second hour suggestion, let's showcase our demos. Keep it to 2 minutes, perhaps a review, ruthless or otherwise.
I think we'd have more participants if we did it in after hours. I think putting it on YouTube might be a little hard, but I'm open to it. If people put it in there, enough people vote on it, we'll put it in a second hour, but I think an after hours lab might be good as well. We'll do one or two more questions, and then we'll jump over one more question. Actually, we'll just do one more question. Go ahead. Gilberto
from Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Getting a new 14-inch MacBook. Any useful dongle recommendations?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Well, I think the first thing you want to do, because most of us on any machine, even if we have 4 USB-C ports, have to do something to extend that into more. You always run into more things you want to attach. So some sort of interface that allows you to take one of your ports and multiply it into multiple other ports, I think would be one of the most initial important dongle purchases you should make.
I'm a big fan of the OWCs. I have had the least number of issues with OWC than I've had with anything else. All right, we're jumping to the next hour and talking about our StreamDecks. There's a lot of StreamDecks here. I think I think probably everybody in the panel here has a StreamDeck. So by the way, if you're a panelist, go ahead and throw, and if you want to show off or talk about it a little bit, go ahead and raise your hand here in the panel discussion. By the way, if we pushed your question back, we ran a little behind on the questions. If we pushed your question back and you're new, those went back to your notes, and you can put them in tomorrow, and we'll answer in the general discussion. We had a lot of questions this morning. It was quite a thing when we entered. Anyway, so the StreamDeck is something I've been using almost since they released it in some way or shape or form. And I have the 6 and the 32 and I have all the different sizes that I use in different places. But for those listening, it's basically controlled by Elgato, who has changed what they do many times over the last 15 years, I think. But they've done well at pivoting, and I think they're now owned by Corsair. But that's these are the little controllers that a lot of us use. Go ahead, Chris. How do you use yours?
First of all, I'm going to say that I will thank Office Hours to teaching me about StreamDecks. I had no idea. I didn't know what these things were. I was just an editor. I do a couple of things that I could not live without. One, I use it with Unity Comms, and I set up a separate button for each person I want to talk to on a show. And I use it so much, I've actually had producers say, stop doing that, just talk to the whole crew. I love that. I use it to, switch between my different screens. I won't do it because I have stuff up you shouldn't see. And I also use it to control my mic and stuff here. My mute is on it, and I don't have any problem with that. I know some people have. And I was really excited. I guess it was about 4 or 5 months ago, and I think it was based on something that Jeffrey had said. I realized, oh, I can program one button to do a whole bunch of things. So I literally have one button that opens up Discord, opens up my OBS, opens up my ATEM software, opens up the Unity, and it's like, whoop, ready for office hours. Like one button, boop, 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 boop. It's like playing Jeopardy at home.
Go ahead, John.
Mr. Fenwick will now articulate the setup of my StreamDeck because he set it up and he's the only one that uses it here in my house.
Go ahead, Jeffrey. Are you there, Jeffrey? Oh.
Got to find the unmute. Well, hey, so I have been using StreamDeck since 2018. I don't have the original StreamDeck like I believe Guy has, or was that just a picture you always showed? But I've been using, when I did my shows, it was always, and I would use, of course, software switching, Wirecast. And every time I'd have to go and look for a scene. I'm here, one man job here. And every time I try to look for a scene, I'd first of all have to figure out where my mouse was. And then, of course, run the mouse over to the scene and then make the scene happen. It took a lot of brain work, a lot of thought. So when I first got introduced to the StreamDeck, I was a little bit hesitant because I did have an X keys, and nothing wrong with X keys. Don't get me wrong on it, but it was a little learning curve on there. But the fact that these buttons lit up and changed as we went, just amazing on there. So I learned a lot about it, and of course I've been using it ever since. Like for instance, right now on my system here, you will see I have 3 different StreamDecks. So the 32 button right here. We have the one that came out in 2017, the 15 button, and then the new 15 button that came out was it last year? I believe it was. So all of these 3 are connected up to my machine, but not always. A lot of times the second one is connected up to my remote machine. Sometimes I do have a Raspberry Pi, which I haven't loaded up in a while, and I put StreamDeck on that so I could have a more remote type situation. And then, of course, on the regular show, I would always have two StreamDecks up here. This one right here, which is basically opens up all my programs, and this one, which is the main control, running companion in the first 15 buttons. And then on the right side, I've got I'm running vMix right now, so I've got the vMix buttons up there, but I can go back and I've got my Wirecast buttons at the ready to do any type of switching back and forth. The other cool thing about this is there's just so much you can do. I got my CPU down here. I can go to my right there. I can go to this button, and that's going to zoom it in there so you can see this a little bit better. We got my zoom mute, which sometimes doesn't. It's working now, so that's perfect. And then, of course, time zones that I can go from there. The only thing that I haven't figured out how to do, there's 2 new things. The one thing is triggers, which I'm still working on. And the other thing is apparently there's a Connect 4 that you can use to watch it from there. But one more thing, and that is, and I got kind of dinged on this the other day with Preto on them. So over here on the 15 button, I can open up all my apps. I have an office hours, which brings that up. I can bring up my companions, so I can bring over my buttons. And I do want to show you this really quick. Between the new one and the old one, one of the big differences is the resolution on the buttons. So if you're doing like animations on your buttons, the newer the 15 button StreamDeck is worth it versus the old one, because I think it's like they're 15 frames a second, but this one, these are newer buttons, and I can't remember the exact details on the whole thing. But finally, with this one, during a lot of my shows, I have a soundboard, and I can pipe in music by simply pushing a button and bringing it back out. So these are all at my fingertips. I don't have to look at anything. I can just go and push and move from there. So basically, yeah.
I just figured out the sound thing. I think that's really cool.
Good, Jesse.
Yeah, that was an awesome demo. And just to step back a little bit for higher perspective view for people that might be new to using a StreamDeck, there are really two primary applications. One is the StreamDeck native application that comes with the hardware device if you buy one. And there's also something called Companion, which is open source that you can use to program the StreamDeck. And just to say, if you're getting started, you don't necessarily need the hardware. You can actually just start out with Companion and look at what that button layout would be, and you can actually control Companion through the web. Also, the StreamDeck application, you can buy a version of that for the phone. So if you wanted to control certain AV production hardware on a phone only, you could go that route. So there's a certain, kind of wanted to decide how you're going to use it. If you're going to share some certain controls with other folks over the web, maybe they just need a button or two. But you can program things like that. And also just to talk about triggers, they're really handy too. I just did a recent project where some folks that were non-technical wanted to know how to stream, and they wanted to have some camera presets and stuff like that. So you can say with a trigger, at 10 a.m., go live and start with the title slide and then go into a countdown timer and then into a live camera. So you can sort of pre-program those button pushes to do all of the behind the scenes, more technical things, and then give like a producer or something like that some basic controls over their production. So many different ways to use it. And I've used it for audio, cameras, software switching, and things like that, hardware switching. So it's so cool to be able to blend all those things together.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
There's a lot of inspiration there. My relationship with my StreamDeck 32 button is symbiotic, and that means that I love Mix Effect Pro from ATEM the controller software for your ATEM Mini Extreme, and it just makes it a Swiss Army knife in terms of the number of things you can do immediately in a space that's only about this big. It's and I've got it down to muscle memory. I don't use it for much else. I just use it for a better interface, a better use, a better relationship with my ATEM.
Yeah. It's what is great is that it's such a Swiss Army knife. What you just saw there is a whole bunch of people. They're managing sound, they're managing sound effects, they're managing their camera position, their camera, zoom, pan and tilt, managing their ATEM, managing their comms. And that's what I think makes it really powerful. Next question.
And next question in from JHB in New York. How many panelists use Companion or additional software with their StreamDeck? Thanks.
Good, Mitchell.
I use the beta version of Companion in order to have the deep connectivity to Mix Effect. It's not part of the regular Companion, but the Companion is just sort of like an SDK. It allows you to have some very deep controlling ability. As you saw demonstrated, I'm sure a lot of those people were using Companion. I'm still stuck on the beta. I'm looking forward to the updated version that will allow some visual feedback between Mix Effects and ATEM.
Good, Jeffrey.
I think there's always going to be a beta version of Companion as it goes. So yes, I use two different things. The first one is the beta Companion. It's basically Companion, and it connects up to. I have 3 PTZ cameras. Sometimes I have my ATEM, which is not hooked up right now. I've got my titler and Viscero hotkey in there, and of course all my button setups right here to do different things, remote control through whatever I need to. The other program that I am really getting into, Jodamex, I talked to him at NAB, it says Central Control. And not only can you connect up your StreamDecks to this device, this is a paid program, by the way, but not only can I hook up my StreamDecks as a hotkey controller and throw it through Companion, I can also hook up other devices. I've got an actual 16-key keyboard from Axiom that I use, and I'll use that as extra control buttons, which is really cool. So if I need an extra option, I can definitely do that. And with Companion, the best part about that is if I want to have a graphic. Let's see. It is not working. It was supposed to work. Hold on a second. Let's do that. There we go. And so now I can put up my graphics. This is on a machine that's actually 4 rooms away. And it's all running. That's basically sending it back through NDI. It's using Viscero to send it through. I'm using New Blue Titler Live to make the titles, and then I can have that all at my fingertips. Easy peasy.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, and I would be cautious about running maybe multiple applications at the same time. Like I know for a while, if you ran StreamDeck native application and companion, you might run into some crosstalk there. But you can actually have companion triggers and buttons on the StreamDeck application. But if you're starting from scratch, you'll probably find that companion itself, if you learn it a bit and dive in a bit, it can go farther than the StreamDeck application. One of the nice things that but many of the apps do is give you some sort of feedback. So it's not just a button push and then you wonder if the thing is happening. You can set it up to change the background color or show you some sort of visual change when you've done something. So you can just kind of scan and say those things are happening and continue on.
Good, Chris.
I think it's super important to remember also that, yes, companion works, and, Jeffrey is a StreamDeck savant as far as I'm concerned. But you don't have to totally go off the deep end to appreciate what this product can do. I mean, get it, learn how to mute your mic, learn how to launch a few apps. You can start slow and really easily get some benefit from it.
I mean, to put it in perspective, I have 3 of them that I use. I don't know how to use Companion at all. I don't know anything about it. I actually, I know about it because people here talk about how they use it, but I literally am quite happy with my hardware using just the StreamDeck stuff, to do all the things that I'm trying to do with it. And I keep on thinking I should learn Companion, but in my copious free time. Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, and don't forget with Companion, you actually don't even need a StreamDeck. You can just mimic those buttons. So if you're, in a web browser, you're using Companion as if this was a StreamDeck. But you can see I got some stuff for like PTZ. Oh, my PTZ is not here right now. But basically, this is the joy of Companion, is that all these buttons were already pre-programmed by somebody else in that open source environment. So all I did was just drag them onto the ones that I wanted. So you don't need it. If you want to just play with StreamDecks, just either get the app for $2.99 a month and put it on your phone, or just launch Companion and you have all these buttons inside of the web browser. So basically, you just hit web buttons, and that's how you get to it. You'll have your IP address, :8000, and then buttons, and then anybody on the network can control whatever device you want to control. And there is just tons of connections. I mean, Bird Dog, Visco over IP. You can see Adam Tao stuff, Analog Wave, Barcode, Denon. I mean, there's just hundreds. Yamaha, Vicrio listeners, video. What was that one? Video Ninja. I mean, there's just tons of stuff in here. So download it, play away.
Whenever they created Analog Way, I wonder if they thought about how that name would last 10 years later or 20 years later. It's a funny name. Next question.
Kirsten Osterkamp from Germany. What do you suggest when someone wants to combine a StreamDeck XL with a StreamDeck in virtual production? For example, using Companion with one and StreamDeck software with the other.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Oh, you can definitely do that. But you can also set it up. Keep in mind, you have 15 buttons on the 15-button StreamDeck. However, you can set up your first page of that 15 buttons to be nothing but folders. So you push a button, it'll take you to a completely separate page with a whole bunch of other buttons. On the 15-button StreamDeck, I have it set up where I can show you. I can basically bring in my companion module right there. And so everything that's on that 32 button is now on the 15 button. And I don't need to have a second StreamDeck. I can just bring it in back and forth. However, if you want to do the 2-button thing, the 2 StreamDeck thing, the only thing that I would highly suggest is if you want to have different pages on different stream decks. It's the one thing that Companion won't do. If you want to have different buttons to switch from, they'll have to be on 2 separate machines. There's no way to say, okay, 15 buttons over here, 15 buttons over here. But with StreamDeck, yeah, you can actually create profiles and send them over to another computer. You'll have to reconfigure just a little bit, but you can have all those buttons at your fingertips. And really quick to Fenwick, what Fenwick said earlier, keep in mind, back in 2017, there was a lot of features on these Stream Decks that we didn't have, that all of a sudden they started showing up with different new updates. So it's like I got to start from step 1, and whoever's getting in the Stream Deck right now gets thrown into step 5,654. So it is a big learning curve, but once again, yeah, keep it as simple as possible, and then you can really ramp up and do a lot.
It's 54. It was 51 last week. Next question.
Next question in from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. Dennis Champion Walker set up my Stream Deck in after hours. Would he be willing to do a refresher for me?
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I wanted to. Could you guys hear me? Oh.
We can.
I'm using the Stream Deck, and so I unmuted myself, and I'm going to. This is kind of an underwhelming use of the Stream Deck, but I wanted to share it with you. And Dennis has graciously said that he would work with me again on refreshing what I'm doing with my Stream Deck. So that's my mute button. That's my camera button. This is the exit from Zoom. This is a button to go straight to Conversations with Tony Mobley. And then I have this is showing how my Mac Mini is processing usage. And I have my clock. And as I said, I know this is kind of an underwhelming use of the Stream Deck, but it's amazing to me that I can, play with it and do different things with it. And I'm looking forward to learning how to, get better with my Stream Deck and my ATEM. There's so much to learn, and there's just so many different opportunities. And I'm, again, thankful to be a part of Office Hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
That's me. Douglas Carmichael here with a question. Would a Companion be the most effective tool to interface a Stream Deck with other applications?
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Well, it really depends. But in your case, Douglas, since you do a lot of keyboard work, you might even want to take a look at that central control app, because once again, it can connect more than just Stream Decks and use them. So you could actually be playing your keyboard, and you could assign those drum keys that you might not be using on the far right side to actually work like a Stream Deck would. And then you can have your Stream Deck in a corner. You can still get to the buttons, but you could have easy taps from there. Companion, of course, being free, it's something that you could definitely download and see if it's going to work for whatever case use you want to do, because there's tons of programs that'll work with.
Next question.
Morgan Price from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. What Stream Deck controls do you find most useful in Zoom meetings other than mute?
Go ahead, Jesse.
I'd say Zoom ISO pinning is really helpful to have on there. Probably anything that's dynamic that again gives you that sort of feedback. Also NDI routing. If you have a NDI router application in your system, you can send things to different destinations pretty easily. So, yeah.
Sorry, next question.
Morgan is back, and he asks, how can you control aperture lights with the Stream Deck?
Jeffrey?
If there isn't a button that's in the Stream Deck store, or if it's not in Companion, which, by the way, you can always email them and say, hey, I'm using Aputure, I'm using this. Can we get a connection for that? Then what you can do is you can set if this, then that situation. There's a way where you basically push a button and all your lights can turn on, all your lights can turn off, they can dim, however they control within your system. you'll be able to make the changes from there. Also, keep in mind that Elgato, anything that's made by Elgato, is most likely going to have functionality inside of there to work with the StreamDeck natively. So they want to create their own little walled garden, mostly for gamers. But you can get lights, you can get the capture cards, and everything else that will not only help the StreamDeck will control, but it can circumvent things like hardware or software switching. Because if you got a couple cameras, Elgato 4Ks, plugged in there, you should be able to just basically switch back and forth between those cameras.
Go, Jesse.
Yeah, so with lighting, the the two protocols mostly used are DMX and ArtNet, and Companion will allow you to look at those generically.
Next question.
Eduardo Augustine at Panama. How to control multiple machines with StreamDeck or do remote actions?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey.
That would be visceral, like I said before. But there's also some programs that are starting to really delve into the idea of having Companion use it. So they're starting to write code within the software.
Next question.
Dave Oden from Johnstown, Colorado. What is the difference between the older 15-button StreamDeck and the newer one?
I think there's a little bit of a form factor difference. I believe that the keys are higher resolution. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, the form factor is different. The buttons are a little bit higher resolution, but the form factor is this. This is the older one. It comes on a stand that pops right off, comes right back on. The newer StreamDeck has the same stand that the 32 button does. And then the USB cable, USB-C inside here, is detachable. So if you want to put on a different type of cable, you can do so. Whereas this one, it's hardwired right into the 15 button.
By the way, I don't know, Chris, have you put those into any enclosure? I was at somebody's office where they had built this really nice, it was a beautiful little thing, and they had taken 3 32s and ran them across, and then it just looked like this huge deck, and it was leaning like a turret down a little bit and up, and it went from looking like a tool that we're hacking something with to a component of your production system.
Yeah, there's somebody on Pinterest that has one that's built into some really nice wood, and then it has a padded leather like wrist rest in front of it.
Oh yeah,
and it absolutely looks like an 80s recording studio piece of a kit. It's really cool.
The one thing that I really liked about the one that I saw was on the bottom edge, they had run a strip of LED and then a little cover over it so you don't see it. And so they could hit a button and it would light up so they could see their notes and stuff like that. But it was like this really, I was like, where did you buy this? They were like, oh, I made it. They have a wood shop in the back. So anyway, next question.
Jason Panks, Nashville, Tennessee. Pros and cons of Companion versus Elgato StreamDeck app.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Pros and cons. Well, once again, it really depends on what you're doing. But I'll give you a tip. And this happened to me a couple months ago when I had a couple crashes. It basically corrupted the configuration files on my Companion. So my tip is to actually go into your configuration files, copy that folder, and copy it somewhere else. So if it ever crashes again, you can actually bring it back. Because if you bring back a saved profile in Companion, it brings back the buttons, but it doesn't bring back the button functions. So like, for instance, if you've got a PTZ camera and it's still on the same IP address, if you import that, you have to you have to create the instance again of the PTZ camera. You have to give it the IP address, and then you have to remap all the buttons, which is not a big deal nowadays because you can basically just drag and drop. But if you drag and drop that folder back in, the configuration's there again.
So what you're saying is that it moves the gravestones, but it doesn't move the bodies. All right, go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, and just again for beginners, the native Elgato StreamDeck app is a bit easier as far as getting started. Of course, I want to help migrate people over to companion because it's open source, and the more the merrier, and the better the application becomes. But if you're just getting started, the StreamDeck app is quite easy to get rolling.
Good guy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny around our shipping area. If you go to the DV store, we have Stream Decks all over the place. And it's funny because when I first saw these at CS years ago, there's a predecessor that made these. And I came up with the idea in my hotel room because I bought one off the show floor. And my immediate thing was, how do I use this with an ATEM? That's what I wanted to do. But then as I dug into their software, it was, hey, you could type in text. So you basically would push one button and it would say like, thank you, for contacting us. So people that were responding to customer service emails, they would just touch one button and it would go and type in everything. And then for shipping, the guys were always hitting the same buttons in the same sequence. So when they saw what I was doing, they're like, I want one of those. So now all the shipping stations, there's like 4 shipping stations in the warehouse that all have companion, or not, it's not even companion, it's just the regular StreamDeck app, but they're using it to type stuff fast. And so they can ship, they were counting, they were using a stopwatch to count how many seconds they shaved off, and they saved off more than a minute off of shipping. So it's really cool to use it in other environments than just video production.
That's awesome. Next question.
John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. How do you display video content on StreamDeck buttons?
Go, Jeffrey.
If you're talking the separate buttons, it really depends on the app. Like, for instance, the vMix app, if you go over, you notice that all of these are basically live buttons. You can see me actually pointing at them on each button. So if I go to Wirecast, I can't do that, but vMix has this set up, so it will do live buttons from there. If you want to do something like actually do a video across all the buttons, I think there is a screensaver app that allows you to do that. You just basically have to go into StreamDeck and go into the StreamDeck store and look for any apps that can help you with that idea.
Next question.
Laura Thompson from Beaumont, Texas. The StreamDeck seems like it could create a tactile interface to something like Universe. Thoughts?
Yes, I think it could. So it doesn't matter. I don't know exactly how it would do that, but I'm sure that both of them talked probably companion. So I think that you'd probably definitely make that work. Next question.
Karsten Wolf from San Francisco. Thoughts on migrating the StreamDeck's tendency to power cycle when it receives static shocks?
A static mat on your desk and less carpet. I think that would be the thing that I would do. Static mats are really awesome, but static. I don't know about the static as far as those. But if you're getting static shots often, it's super bad for your electronics. Like just know that that's a lot of voltage. Like it may be really short. It may not hurt that much, but it's tens of thousands of volts that you're applying to it. Yeah. It's a lot of static is a lot of volts, just not a lot of amps. It's not the amp, you can absorb a lot of volts. It's the amps that kill you. so anyway, very low amps, but there's a lot of volts that you're applying to electronics that aren't built for that. So the fact that anything survives that very often is quite a thing. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that power conditioners and humidifiers that'll reduce the shock value there.
Yeah. So anyway, it's like I guess under severe. I guess it's not tens of thousands. It's 5,000 to 10,000 volts that you're pushing into that system. Go ahead, Mitchell.
I like the shocks. They keep me awake and active. Keeps going.
They're excellent growing up to do. When at the dinner table, I found that was a big sport in my family. Next question.
Next question from the Seventh Scroll in Brooklyn, New York. Thanks again for the help hooking up Companion Pi. Would you guys recommend connecting more than one StreamDeck to a Pi, or would you rather have many Pis with dedicated StreamDecks?
Jeffrey?
I would do individual Pis, mostly because of the voltage that you have to go through with the StreamDeck. And if you have a 32 button versus a 15 button, so you'll probably get under voltage issues if you hook up two, but I've never done it before.
Next question.
Hasmut Gajar from Cape Town, South Africa. StreamDeck icons, suggestions on creating these. Can you share your icons for office hours, after hours, panel meeting, webinar for office hours?
Where are you guys using? What are you guys using? I have been just using, I think, Affinity Photo to build the ones that I want. I don't remember what resolution they are, but I scale them. They seem to. I drop them in. I think I don't make them very big, but I think they're like I'm making them at like 256 by 256. I think, but I don't. I haven't noticed that. I think it scales it automatically to what you need. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
The only thing that I've ever done, and I know that the new icon, about a year ago, they came out with the page where you could actually build the icons on page. But usually what I would do is, like, for instance, this shot right here, I would just take a screenshot and then put it in Photoshop, make it smaller, and then put it up there. It does a really good job in taking photos and images and then just putting it on the screen as a button. So you could pretty much do anything that you'd want to, but a Canva might be another option right there.
You good, Chris?
Yeah, it freaked my wife out. She came in, she's like, "Oh, why is there a picture of you on that button?" it's my camera button. I just hit it. She goes, "Can I be on some buttons?" I said, "Sure."
What does her button do?
I can't tell you.
On my 6-button StreamDeck, I have just a big arrow that just is like, because what I use that one for is Keynote. So anything that I have there, it's like go forward, go backwards, those types of things. And so I have it, basically it's my little clicker. Next question.
Jonas Dattel from Stuttgart. What is the thing you miss most from your StreamDeck / companion?
What do you wish was there? What do you think what do you wish as a missing component of your StreamDeck? Does anyone have anything that they wish it would do that it doesn't do right now? I wish the buttons. I will admit that I like really industrial buttons, and so I wish the buttons were. I wish there was like a higher. I know this.
StreamDeck Pro,
like a StreamDeck Pro that had better buttons.
Grass Valley switcher buttons.
Well, so here's the thing: is and I've been thinking about this also for my studio technologies. Is that since I'm using it with a mic around, if you listen really carefully, you'll hear me. Sometimes you'll hear my technology, the button, you'll hear it depress. So I really think it should be a rubberized button, and it should be a little bit deeper, but it should never make any noise. I think there's a noiseless version of this that need to happen. I can hear people push their StreamDeck ones occasionally, so because it's got just a little bit of a click to it. Go ahead, Chris.
And this is not a problem with StreamDeck; it's a problem with me. I'm having a hard time understanding the pages metaphor, and I think it's because I deleted some like default buttons that change between pages. So I'm using like folders. So I have a button that goes into a folder, and then from there I go into another folder, and I just find it confusing. And I probably just messed everything up, and I've been living in my own stink since the beginning.
Go ahead. You can just reset it. There's a reset. Go ahead, Mitchell.
When I embarked on my mission to have a muting button for Zoom, and I've spent thousands to get there, but I started with the StreamDeck, and I think there's a problem with their debounce circuit. And what a debounce is that when you make a contact with a button that you're pushing that's mechanical, the button actually bounces on the contacts. And if they don't have the proper circuitry in there to take that bounce out, it doesn't always work. And I suspect that's the problem with StreamDeck.
Yeah, I think that again, more travel in the button would make a big difference. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
And they fixed it a little bit in the newer StreamDeck, but the older StreamDeck, I find that I have to push down the button a little bit more to make that happen. For me, and we talked about it at NAB, was basically faders and jog wheels, and possibly even a joystick. It would have been nice to actually have that, because then I could really set up a really great PTZ system. I hate the button to push the buttons to move up and down, because it's always not correct. So I'd love to see an addition that would have those options put in.
Next question.
It's from Andy Carluccio in San Francisco, California. Anyone try out the new Zoom OSC ISO module? We announced earlier this month that the events engineering team at Zoom is working on a new companion module, and the feedback is welcome.
I don't know if anyone's doing it yet, but everyone will now. so like everyone's like, what? So I think, I think that this integration, again, we're starting to see the fruits of the liminal purchase of things starting to pop up and things getting sorted out. So, and again, this is why I'm so bullish on where Zoom's going, is just that we have a team that actually understands events and is actually pushing things down the path and building tools and integrating with all the other bits and pieces of it. So I don't know how many people here have done it so far, but we should definitely maybe even build a little lab and kind of play with what the new features look like. So stay tuned for that. Next question.
Lou Perez in Queen Creek. Anyone using a StreamDeck on Linux, what software would you recommend?
Lou, you may have stumped us. I think almost all of us are on Windows or Mac. I don't know if anyone's using it on Linux right now. Well, at least on this panel. Sorry about that. Next question.
Sounds like your daughter's playing a bass guitar back there.
It's not. It's there's going to be some discussions. The folks.
Okay. It sounds great, though. I just
thought do my landscaping. They move their time, and there'll be texts after this about times that are okay and times that are not. So
Roscoe Jones from Brea, California asks, how do you transport your StreamDeck? Are there any fragilities to be aware of?
Go ahead, Chris.
I've lived at this desk for a couple of years now, and I recently had to go out in the real world, and I took my laptop on my Stream Deck because it was my comms, because it was still a 95% remote show, but I had to do it from long story. And I took my comms. First day, I walked in, I undid my Stream Deck, and I plugged it in, and I, believe it or not, Alex, you'll say I'm crazy, and I am. I just used my AirBud Pros, AirBud Jordans, whatever they're called, with my laptop for Unity comms. Crazy, I know. And the guy I was working for, he goes, well, I have one of those. So I was like, cool. So for day 2 and day 3, I just plugged his into my laptop. And the cool thing about the software is that the buttons aren't magic. It's the software. And so I'm using his Stream Deck, and it pulls up all of my profiles, which I thought was totally cool. Magic.
For a while, I had down at the office when we were doing a lot of events that I needed to just review or I needed to be at the office for. I had the B-Link by Courtney and a Stream Deck, the 32 Stream Deck, and a little monitor that had Unity on it, and it just was a great little setup, And I keep on meaning to like build something that just has them all in one piece. Like that's my little, so it's just a PC, like a little PC this big, and then it goes out to a little monitor that's not very much bigger than it, because I didn't want to take up a computer with it. I just wanted to have this little thing, and then I have the module sitting right in front of it, and I kept on looking at it going, this could all be a box. Like this could be a little comms box.
Were you using it like a router to select different sources to look at?
I was using it for comms. I was just using like literally it was a 32 button. It was just my comms with a PC with a little monitor, and the cost of the whole thing was maybe $500. And what I had was now like a self-contained comms box that just does that one thing, and it just sits on the corner, and it's not in a bunch of other things, and it's not sitting on something else, and it was it's pretty useful.
You want me to build you a wood box to mount it all in?
Yes. That the whole reason I made that answer is to get you to build me a box.
Okay, I'm working on a couple other projects, and we'll get right on that.
All right, that sounds good. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I got lost in that conversation. So yeah, the buttons themselves can be kind of fragile. So I always I do have a case because the center Stream Deck is on my travel rig. And so it always goes into a box with padding on that. But keep in mind that Elgato and they really support the people that buy their products. In fact, the 32-button Stream Deck, a month into it, the buttons started just going all over the place. And I emailed support and I said, hey, this something's going on. They sent me the Stream Deck, and then I sent them my Stream Deck back. Usually it's the other way around. You got to send them yours to get one back. And they just do a great job in supporting you on that. But yeah, I would definitely get a padded case if you're going to travel with it.
I don't have it here. I was going to try to show it to you. I printed a cover for my Stream Deck, so when I threw it in my backpack, I didn't feel like it was going to nail the buttons, and I just printed it so it has like a little ridge around it so that it won't, go push into it, and then it just raises up like a 1/4 inch over top of the Stream Deck, and then I can just set it, just clip it onto the front. I think I ended up taping it for some reason. It was just like something. Oh, I need a cover that fits this thing, and I printed something relatively quickly and put it on top. And it, I didn't try to make it look pretty. I just wanted a cover for it. So I probably could spend a little more time on it. It would fit on nicer, but it worked well to protect the keys, because I was traveling with it for a bit and throwing it into a backpack, and I just didn't want to break the keys. Next question.
Next question from Tony Mobley in Newton, Georgia. Can my GVM lights be controlled by the Stream Deck?
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
If the GVM lights have an app to it and that app is Wi-Fi controlled, there is possibility that you do from there. If you have the lights like I do and Fenwick do, where we have this little guy right here that turns them on and off. These are also on Wi-Fi 2.4. So you're going to have to set up something to get the Stream Deck to go to tell it to turn on and off the lights. There's usually an in-between. There's several different things from like Zigbee and stuff like that that'll allow you to do remote control with IR or remote control with Wi-Fi. But you have to do all the setup to get that to work. If there's no option with this on those lights, then unfortunately, the only thing I could suggest is plugging them into one of those dongle plugs that turn on and off the lights for you.
Next question.
Rob Collins from Kansas City, Missouri. If you could somehow improve the Stream Deck, what would you change or add? Perhaps a slider or knob?
Mitchell?
I want to ask the question or answer the question on behalf of the back-end crew. As Dennis Champion Walker wants to know, the thing that is missing for me is talking to Universe. And Chad Lafarge wants to know, yes, he thinks silent and rubberized buttons that cannot stick.
Sorry, I was grabbing something. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So I said the faders and the dials before, but then Eduardo and Guy asked me, have you tried the Loop Deck, which is a completely different surface? And I did do that at NAB. I did an interview with them, and I'm definitely going to get one in-house to try it out.
Yeah, one of the things that I would love to see Elgato do with a lot of this stuff is to think about a modular. This is from Monogram. This is like this thing. These things snap together, which I just wish it did. It interacted with as many apps as Companion does or the Stream Deck does, but having different things that I could snap together would be pretty cool. So Monogram, middle things is another one that is kind of working towards that kind of modular. I want to build my controller, so I think that that's going to be the future. Is the Stream Deck kind of gets us down the path, but being able to each one of these things just pops off and pops in, and so Monogram builds these. There is I think we did a second hour with them a long time ago, but there's also Middle Things is doing kind of a modular thing where you can snap things together and build out the control interface that you want with the sliders, with the knobs, jog and shuttle, whatever you want to do there. I think that would be good. And the next big thing that I was thinking about after the last question that was kind of asking the same thing, Ethernet and IP. Like just being able to have this thing control anything over the internet would be a big deal. Go ahead, Chris.
I noticed, however, the thing you just showed up, what's that called?
It's a Monogram controller.
I noticed it's not plugged in and you're not using it, though.
It's not. I love the form factor. It doesn't integrate with the stuff that I need as I need it. So I don't, so the problem they have is they don't have enough industry support. So it's hard for me to, it's also, the funny thing is it doesn't have a backboard to it. Like I needed to build a backboard for it because they just all snap together. But I don't have a desk that can do that. It has to sit on something because there's so many things on my desk that I can't just set it on the ground. I have to have something under it. And so those are the two things that have kept it. But it works pretty well with the things that it works with. The last time I tested it, there was still like it was using kind of a roundabout way to control Final Cut. Otherwise, I probably use it with Final Cut all the time. But it wasn't smooth enough to replace using keystrokes. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Now that I'm thinking about it, with that controller and Fenwick, you have the Korg Nano 2, if I remember correct. If you use central control rather than companion, that allows you to connect up multiple devices, like I said, keyboards and things like that, which would then, you could then use both of them in tandem and only have one interface to set up. And then, of course, you build a nice little custom interface, 3D print, or embedded in a wooden table, or however you want to do it. And then you can have all of that there at your fingertips.
Next question.
Next question in from Tim O'Brien in Chicago. StreamDeck seems like a great option for someone familiar with cutting and operating. Any tips for preparing for handoff to have on-screen talent run their show with me assisting behind the scenes? My CEO wants to push buttons.
So I think that what I would recommend thinking out is building interfaces for that. So when we do that for talent, now, if we have more than one button, so we had one. I will say, if you're working with CEOs, I wouldn't give them a StreamDeck. I would use an Arduino and build and print something out. That's what we've done. We've done this a couple times, but we had one, for instance, we had this owner of a team that they were doing a draft, and he just wanted to know that he could push a button and it would turn. If he wanted to be private, he wouldn't let our cameras in unless I said I have to be able to push a button, and if I push a button, a graphic comes up, mutes my mic. I don't want to. So what we did was we actually took an Arduino and we printed a box that had his team's logo on it and looked really pretty, and it had a big button. And if you hit the button, it would turn off the feed, and he loved it. He never used it, fortunately, but he loved the fact that it was customized for them, especially when you're talking about CEOs. Build something that really is just what they want. Or the other thing that we've done is we build interfaces, and so there's a couple different things you can use for interfaces. We haven't used Universe, but you could do something like Universe. You could do it in other things like that. Mimo Live has its own like little thing that you can design things that can do it. But we've done a variety of things where we build an interface for talent that is a touch screen, but it's big. This is what I want you to do. The big thing you have to be careful of is if you're a trained talent and you know how to use a StreamDeck, like one of us, we can kind of glance down and we know what we're hitting. If you're not doing it often enough, you have to think about it being something I can glance and not have to think about, and I can just push the big button. And color makes a difference. The size of type makes a difference. The positioning of it, and you want to refine that. It's a lot easier to do that with a touch screen than it is with with something else. A lot of times we built ones that are the size of like my Wacom tablet, and then there's only like 6 buttons on it, so that you can really just hit something in that direction and you get the right one. Go ahead, Chris.
I may recommend, although the cable is not removable on a StreamDeck, it could be cut off, and that might be the StreamDeck you give to the CEO.
Well, the funny thing, the other thing that's funny, we use what we call pickles, the controllers for the DSAN Perfect Q, and it's funny because we don't usually tell the executives that they're not actually moving the button forward. They're not actually moving the slide forward. They're moving an arrow. When they hit it, it says the arrow, and then an operator does it. Otherwise, bad things happen. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
You could set up two StreamDecks, the second StreamDeck giving them different buttons. And the cool thing about it is with StreamDeck, you have profiles. So if I opened up Photoshop, I could have a whole bunch of buttons for Photoshop. If I opened up Logic, I'd have a whole bunch of buttons for Logic, and it would instantly switch back and forth if you have it set up that way. So you could have that second StreamDeck. As you can see, I have the 3 StreamDecks here. You can have the second StreamDeck set up with a couple of buttons that could do something as simple as, if you don't want them to mess up anything, turn on a tally light or switch from camera A to camera B. So yeah, that could be done easy.
Next question.
Next question in from Guy Cochran in Seattle. Is AverMedia trying to compete with Elgato with their new product, Live Streamer Nexus?
Guy, have you played with this?
I saw it while walking to go grab something to eat at Infocom, and kind of glanced down and asked a few questions, and it didn't work with Companion, of course, yet, but who knows if that's where they're trying to go. It looks like they're trying to compete because it's $349, but it does have the knobs, has a screen. Dennis, if you can cut to that graphic and we can take a look at it. Not me, but the thing we're talking about.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Yeah, it looks pretty. I guess that's true.
I don't. Yeah, this is where it's funny, that you have to figure out what part of the ecosystem you're in, and if you don't support something that everybody's using, they'll go, oh, that looks great, but it doesn't tie into the thing that I need. And then people stop looking at it again. So, but it does look like it's a really cool setup. I've never even heard of the company before, so it's new. So we'll take a closer look at it. Now go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I actually have a couple AverMedia capture cards, pass-through cards, and I've worked with the company a little bit before. The big thing that I see with this device is, even though it's got dials, which is great, it doesn't have a lot of a lot of the tactile buttons, which is the one thing that I really love about the StreamDeck. And by having those, if those are push buttons that I'm seeing on the screen there, then you lose that tactile feedback, because I can sit here and not have to look at the StreamDeck and know that I'm pushing this button and then coming back to this button. So that would be the biggest thing I'd see.
I have to admit, I'm going to have to look at what it supports. I actually like the form factor, now that I've seen it, better than the StreamDeck, of having some knobs. Big, those are the rubberized buttons I was talking about, like big buttons that don't make noise, little sliders, the volume nods there. I just don't know if it would. Again, the problem is, does it integrate with an ecosystem that makes sense? But from a form factor perspective, I'd like to see more of those. Yes, please. Next question.
From Hasmut Kajar from Cape Town, South Africa, using the Zoom plugin in StreamDeck, dragging speaker and video controls on buttons, not working as the speaker video icons on the buttons gray out. Ideas?
I don't know. But I would make sure that you have the newest one, given that we just were told that the new ISO stuff has just been updated. So I don't have an answer for that, but I would come next week and ask. There might be some people here the next week that can answer those questions. Next question.
Hasmuk is back with another question. Explain how you would get a button to launch multiple apps the way Chris Fenwick mentioned.
Fenwick?
I was just trying to figure it out. There's a function called multi-setup, I believe, or multi-action, Hasmuk. It's in the StreamDeck. Jeffrey, what are those called when you have to download a plugin or a patch to run a certain app in the StreamDeck universe?
Going to the store and downloading the app?
Yeah, I mean, is it called a plugin or is it called a I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, I suppose it would be a plugin. There's a couple different ways. There's a couple different ways to do it. One is there's what's called a hotkey switch, which is really cool. So if you want it to turn on and then turn off, then it will have two functions. But in the system area, you get options for hotkeys and open. And yeah, there is one. I'm trying to find it really quick that will allow you to do multiple things. But the other way is through Companion. You can basically give it button presses, and then wait a few milliseconds, and then the next press.
I'd stay for somebody new. You need to have your StreamDeck for like a couple of months before you start dumping into Companion. It's
absolutely,
but it's called a multi-action button. And what's really weird is I literally just saw it and it disappeared. But it's under the StreamDeck set of buttons. It's called multi-action. And then when you click on that button in your controller, here I could show, no, I can't show you. You get a whole list of things. So mine says like open Discord, open OBS, open ATEM, open, I don't know what that one is. And then open Unity. Oh, and turn on the lights.
Here it is right here. So basically multi-action is in this, the caret for StreamDeck, bringing that down. And then, I'm in it. So I think I have to close out of this to get back. There we go, like that. So I go multi-action, drag it over, drop it. And then from here, I can add in the different actions that I need.
Next
multi-action.
Multi-action. Next question.
Looks like the last one. It's from Ike Potter in Hanover, Germany. Can DJI gimbaled movements be controlled by a StreamDeck?
I don't think so. And it'd be hard to do it smoothly, even if you could. But you probably could have an API that you could push something on the StreamDeck and your DJI would take off. But usually, I think that the big thing is I think that the it's not really built for that. I think it would be hard to make that work. The gimbal itself, yeah, I bet you could do something there with the API, but I don't know if it's natively supported. I was thinking about a drone, but an API, one that said I want to go to position 1, position 2, position 3. But I don't know of anything native. But it would be great if it did, like one of the DCS or DSCs 2s or 3s or whatever. Being able to do that would be really cool. Next question.
And it's from Jonathan Michelson in Buenos Aires, Argentina. When I open the companion web buttons on an iPad, holding down a button triggers the web browser's context menu instead of sustained companion triggering. I want to use it for PTZ movements and can't. Everything else works fine. Any ideas?
That's a good suggestion. I don't have an answer. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So you're using Companion on an iPad. I'm not exactly sure. Is this because I don't think you can put Companion on an iPad, or are you using like a remote desktop to?
Or is it using the iPhone StreamDeck software talking to Companion? I think is the thing.
But you'd still have to have Companion on the iPad for that to work. So unless you're saying the StreamDeck,
he's saying he's using the web. He's using the web button, so he's just using the iPad. I'm not sure if there's a way that is in the keyboard settings or something that, it's almost like on a PC, you can have the second mouse right click, but I'm wondering if there's some kind of contextual menu thing in one of the settings. But yeah, it sounds like he's just using the web buttons. I just do multiple taps. So from what I remember when that was happening, I was just like tap, 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 tap. And it's a skippy thing, but usually you're not on air when you're trying to readjust those PTZ settings.
And you have that on the iPad?
Yeah, you're just using web buttons. So you just call up the IP address :8000, and then you have all the web buttons.
Okay, now I get it. Okay,
that's good. It's good. That was a good little hour talking about stuff. It's a really important piece of material, hardware that a lot of us are using. So definitely worth the second hour to talk about and answer your questions. And we'll do more of those. Anyway, thank you so much to our producers for all the great questions driving this conversation forward. Thanks to the panelists. I can't do this without you. And we can't also do it without the huge group of people on the back end, which you'll see their names in just a second, that are making this all happen every single day, 7 days a week, pushing it down the path. So thanks so much. And now we're going to jump into After Hours.
Guy, thanks for the text trip. I did not know that. It's awesome.
That upside down.
I want to connect it with.
Is there a StreamDeck button that stops whispering?
No, it just increases.
I wish you would keep screwing it up. We're only whispering after the show. You can't talk otherwise.
Okay,